All right, welcome everyone to Above Table, episode 11. I cannot believe it's episode 11 for you guys. How many episodes you guys have had? We did move to the whole 10 episode thing now. This is 11 episodes technically, but who's going to count?
Not us.
You just did. I just did. But Above Table, I just want to get everyone's reaction for the last 11 episodes of the first portion of season 2.
I guess to drop the first curse word in this video, what a mindfuck.
Yeah.
This has been.
Yeah, as someone who did a little bit of camera work and who filled in for the, hatted white guy a few times,
It was unhatted today.
Yeah, unhatted today. I'm glad that, you can tell us apart because he's not wearing a hat.
That's right.
Yeah. Complete twins otherwise.
Absolutely.
Same.
We're gorgeous, so I don't know.
That's right.
Glad to talk to you guys, honestly. Sit down at the table and see what your reactions are. It's been a while. It's been a while. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
That's not our joke.
Yeah, well, it's someone's joke, so let's do it.
Joke.
So to go back to 54, you guys were immediately thrust into a super high fantasy setting after defeating Kapoor, right?
Yeah.
So immediately, defeat Kapoor, go through a rift, and you're in a highly magical city that you guys just weren't used to.
Yeah.
How
that was super
jarring
weird.
was that? It seemed like from the observer's perspective, it's okay, you guys haven't done any magic. Why is there still magic here? And it came out a few episodes later, but as characters, how is that going into it? Because you were above, you were at the top of the food chain for magic, right?
Right.
For the most part, magical items and that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
But then you go to the city and you're like, oh, we may not know anything.
It's more like a classic D&D city.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess my first thought in character was maybe these are isolationists, right? Whatever sort of protection this city had pre-pillars is the same government they have now. You know what I mean? When we approached them, they were very defensive. They made us relinquish everything. They made us promise not to do magic. I'm thinking if maybe this city, and I played in the mini series, so I knew kind of the process as a player of how they got rid of magic.
Sure.
So as a player again, I thought maybe this city has been defensive for so long that no mages of their collective went to go try to stop the evil magic. No one joined in the process of creating the pillars, and whatever runes or protection they had kind of extended past that. And since they were isolationists, maybe no one really cared that they existed because no one could ever leave.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of pictured when we went into this place, kind of how when you go to a theme park, they wand you down, and then you have the lockers where you have to put your stuff, and then you can go and have fun. It's that's how I imagined it. I was like, oh man, they have this thing worked out. They're not messing around. They don't want anybody fighting. They don't want any. They take all your stuff and they make sure you're safe, and then you're free to go. But that's how they keep the peace, and that was really cool. I was a player to be in a city where we knew okay, well, they're very strict on all their stuff, and so this is really kind of purely a RP and fact finding kind of scenario that we're in right now, because we're fairly certain that no one's going to just drop out of the sky and attack the city, so that should be fun.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
That would never happen.
That would never
They've
happen.
been well defended for 1,000 years.
Surely our presence will change that.
Surely not. So to that point, as a group, when did you guys realize that the enchantress was the baddie in the city?
As soon as we met her.
I mean, not above table for me, probably immediately, just because, this whole campaign has been a, consistent series of whatever you think is something, probably the opposite. That's been a pretty consistent theme.
Look at this wonderful person who's preserved this city and given them so many boons.
No.
Okay, well, that's a bad person.
Well, it's right, and it kind of teaches you to believe the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if anybody else had hope at the table that this was a real person.
I will say for me, and I don't think it's too much of a meta thing, as Dominic was pretty suspicious just walking in. Because, yes, there's a lot of magic walk around, but it's very, like, surface level magic. And you kind of found that out as soon as from the get-go. Like, none of it really mattered. Like, with the exception of the magic wall, which I guess was kind of helping them, none of it really changed the way people lived.
Mm-hmm.
It was, like I said, pure defensive. It didn't really do anything. And I think Dom was like, if this mattered more, then the people would act different. And it was just like a city that's in this setting, and also there's magic layered on top of it. If you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't.
So it just seemed like because it was a high elf city. So like it just seemed like people who were
Yeah.
super old.
People
and just
observed
kinda
it,
used
and they're
to-
like, yeah, there's magic, and we use it to cut you off.
Mhm.
Use like, there's a magic elevator. And sure, we're used to the magic elevator, but if it wasn't a magic elevator, they just use stairs. It doesn't change anything, right? It only changed stuff when it stopped being magic. And it's like, oh, well, suddenly this is a little bit more inconvenient.
And none of the magic was really like out of this world magic either.
No, it was very base level and like shock value, kind of.
Yeah.
This is a great enchantress. She helped everything. It's like, well, has she? Because no one could tell us what the enchantress like really did.
But until you found out that like she raised the 4 spires or whatever in a day,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I feel like once you hit that point, it's like, okay, like,
Oh,
Well, and
okay.
also-
They're like so dependent for no reason. Though.
right.
They're super dependent on the person, and it didn't really change their way of life.
Well, and they had magic items. Like, we went to the shop in the city center, or this center of trade, spire of trade, whatever. And they had like a Vorpal sword on the wall. You know what I mean? You see that, and you're like, holy shit! Like, as a player, I know that is fucking insane to have that just lying around.
Was it even a Whirlpool sword? Because we thought we picked up a scintillating robe, and it was just like a robe that changed colors.
Well, and why I think he actually called it a Vorpal sword, the shopkeep. But it turns out all those items were fake anyway. I mean, they were counterfeit, right? It wasn't a real Vorpal sword.
Well, yeah,
like-
because you guys went around later and requisitioned
All the
anything
stuff.
that was actually magic.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and
which is
I-
depressing with you.
I do think it's
I don't think under any circumstance, even if it would have stolen that sword, it would have functioned.
no.
Like
That's
any
what I'm saying. Like,
Whirlpool sword, yeah.
it
It was all surface.
her name being enchantress also
Very
Like,
bit on the nose.
you enchant people.
Yeah.
You know, like
So
she
when all
did.
that magic disappeared, do you guys think that was the like enchantress's magic disappearing? Did she
Mm-hmm.
plant all of that stuff?
Yeah.
You know?
It's like I assumed it was like losing concentration on something on a macro scale.
Yeah.
Right. It was just
Yeah,
had
we
a
make
thing
all these
set up.
counterfeit things and show how good our society is and how amazing things we are. So any visitors are like, oh my god, there's a Vorpal sword, and then they kind of
She's like a stage magician.
Mm-hmm.
one thing I don't really understand is if the pillars know that the enchantress, which is pillar number 5, runs the city. Why did Dragon Rider number 11 attack? He wouldn't need a ring. He's higher up. Like, why attack the city? Was it just
It wasn't
for
attacking
us?
the city,
It
it
was
was attacking us.
I think it was just us.
Yeah.
Which then,
He was
not to spoil, but
That gets into my other questions later,
Okay.
for sure, on the whole party. Because
yeah, I think that was an attack directed at us. And then, as we see later, there's some minutia stuff behind the details.
Yeah,
Well,
I
sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I got the sense that, the pillars kind of have been a part of this cult for a while, it seems. And they're all following Isa or Princess or whatever, but
Mhm.
they've kind of been like left to their own devices throughout the world. And so a lot of them, having been given some power that other people don't have because they're part of this cult, they've kind of just taken and abused that. And like now, this particular pillar decided, I'm just going to come into this city and decide I'm in charge, and nobody fought her on it. And so it probably looks
Well,
different in every scenario, but that's
like, think
kinda how
about it
this
from the
played
city's
out.
perspective, though. How could they? Because there was no magic. She brought magic. Okay, here's a Vorpal sword. Here's,
Mhm.
I created all these spires for you guys to live and raise the palace before it and
Yeah.
all that stuff. What was your other option as a society?
Well, they were sitting on a gold mine. Like, she didn't conjure the whole mine of like precious gems and
True
shit.
that.
Yeah.
She
I
couldn't
remember
have
that, yeah.
possibly done that.
Yep.
They didn't really have the resources to find their way through the maze. They couldn't just go into the ethereal plane like we did. But I think maybe left to their own devices, they might have at some point been able to mine that for themselves. But I think that something that was kind of cool was to see the first pillar like that had a role to play. Like obviously she was the financial supplier for the rest of the organization because she was literally sitting on this gold mine. So she sells them all on the black market. She sells them to Ruby's people, and then uses the money to funnel it to the organization of the pillars.
I am interested that Jethro didn't try to monetize that.
I do believe
He tried.
One of the
Didn't
first questions I
succeed.
asked was when we got like one of the gems. I said, "What's the value of this?" And he was like, "Oh, that's like a 5 gold white sapphire." And I was like, "Okay, never mind."
Right,
But
but
that was also
but if you find like 100 of
on
them,
scale.
and then I was quickly told we had to leave, so I did.
So you
I
would
mean,
have.
there's literally entities in that labyrinth who literally subsist on the gems and
Oh,
are
yeah.
great at finding them.
all the
This
mold.
was a city that had
I'm
just
the multi.
That's also their
The
food
mold.
source.
right. I'm just surprised that like, okay, can you just like find double the food? Jethro's like, just find double the food. I'll give you some other shit that you can eat, and then give me the precious.
My
gems.
thing is, and this is where, again, time and if it wasn't a party setting, is this city was highly reliant on one influential person to like run their entire life, and then they lost that person, and now the only person in that city with magic would be Jethro. He is filling that role like that,
So that goes into my following question here for
but he did.
the majority of, so I've run a couple campaigns with Chris Strickland before and with you and Thomas, and somehow you guys always end up embroiled in local politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like trying to run cities local politics, not like, oh my gosh, like this, that, and no, literally like, let me take over the city as the king or whatever.
The first campaign I ever played with these two, and then with Chris, was when we, because we came in like halfway through the campaign. It was a whole thing where like we merged 2 campaigns together, whatever. The first thing, like when we met up, was like we have to assassinate this king. So we put this plan together. We ended up killing the king, and I think that was maybe 3 or 4 sessions worth of like planning, prep, and then the assassination itself. And then we spent
way too
real
long.
time, like 2-3 months, establishing a new council, like finding a new master of coin, finding a new master of trade. Like we ended up establishing his character as like the master of, I think, coin, or no, you were the king's hand. My character was the master of coin. So it was like the first campaign I ever played.
I
with
think
this
it's the
half
same
table.
positions that are in here.
It is, yeah. It's the first campaign I ever played with these two was literally building a city.
I appreciate playing with you
And
guys
then we
because
spent-
of your knowledge of the game. I would have walked away from that game.
I
I have no interest in
I
politics
loved
in
it.
my like fantasy
It-
fun game.
It was actually pretty interesting, but because we spent so long on that and that game had so much of focus, I kind of had no interest in the politics of all this.
and what
It's like,
killed
I kind
it
of don't want
was
to do it again.
that campaign, we spent, like I said, 2-3 real months.
And then
We
it didn't
walk out
matter.
of the city to go to the next city, and a dragon comes and razes the whole thing.
So I was like, well,
And it was just,
that was 3 months over
Okay.
time. So it's
So
going to
I
be a
love,
hard
like,
sell.
what a
again.
waste.
Nothing
I
matters.
I
in
love like
ours.
above table politics. Like that's what I do in like my daily life. So like putting it into the game is like fun because you can kind of like escape from real politics for a second, which you wouldn't want to, and like go into like this medieval fantasy politics and like
But-
apply the same skill set without the repercussions.
It was just it, like, what a waste. Like, yeah, it's a waste, but that's truth. Like, that's just everyday life for normal peasants, right? Like, your whole life is this farm, and then some dumb adventurers throw a fireball in it, and like that's your whole life's work.
Yeah.
Like, that can just happen, and it simulated that pretty well.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's great.
it's a crazy world we live in.
Especially a fantasy one.
I mean, enough about politics.
Yeah.
That was too much for me already. I'm here for the dice rolls, the
Cool.
combat, like,
What do I do?
and stealing shit. So after that,
Some
we
politics.
yes, but like
All
Come
things
on.
in moderation. All things in moderation.
so after that, we get quickly into the Jethro solo session, which is
Yeah, those
basically like a very nervous
that was
but
a high
massive
and a low.
lore dump for the party.
It was a high and a low.
You know,
Could have had a zombie friend.
I don't think anybody at the table has seen this solo show besides me and Jethro,
No.
idea.
which is
I
I
was
assumed it was
actually,
Jethro
I was
White.
actually the cameraman for that and
Yeah.
opted not to wear the headset.
Yeah.
And all I saw was like
Yeah.
them talking, but couldn't hear anything. So
I will say for myself, I've never seen Neil as nervous at a table.
Yeah, it was intense. Well, like we kind of ended the last season, a little bit of this season with, was like Jethro had just been cut off from his patron, right? He had lost allies, like he was going through it, and he was like just depressed to the nines, like, and it was kind of showing a little bit his character. And then he finally got this big win of like, this is me, like I'm gonna do this. I'm going to like get our group into the pillars, like I'm gonna figure out this big thing. So like it was kind of like a pride moment for him of like coming back and like actually doing something beneficial. And then as we see later, we're just off the deep end again. We'll get to that. But yeah, it was not meant to be that major. Like, because I was going to be out of town for, I don't even remember now. And so I was like, hey, do you want to do a quick solo session? Just like fill live.
It wasn't that long. It was like a couple weeks.
Yeah. And then it was just like, he was like, show up on this day. And I was like, I figured we would just do this like over text. Like, here's what you did in the meantime. And it, like, he kept like mentioning little things, which like just got my like mind racing. And I was like, am I going to like, how bad is this going to be? Like, genuinely, like, do I need to like prep, like, do I need to bring like my dice, my character sheet, like, or is it just going to be like a whole conversation? And there was a like, I mentioned to a couple of them, like, I had a second character rolled up because I fully believed Jethro was dying today. Mm-hmm. Like, I had a second character.
I mean, he could have.
He came within 6 HP of dying. So, like, I had an alternate character. I had like spells like prepped, like if I need to get out of this is what I can do. So like I was going in there planning to die, so like living was a benefit. And then we got a couple perks, so that was cool.
So the perks were great. There were a couple of them were a little short-lived, but the lore dump, I think the plans out of the lore dump, I think, are probably your best benefit out of that solo session.
Yeah,
right?
The lore dump was great because we had a lot of questions that I felt like were like all over the place. And then being able to connect everything in this like cohesive web of here's what's going on, here's what happened before you guys got here, and then it also connected a little bit with, we mentioned the mini-series.
That's what I was about to say. It catches up the current players on the mini-series, even if they didn't watch it.
Yep.
But like the viewers don't want to watch us explain all that again because they watched 10 episodes of the mini-series. You know what I mean? Like, so having one character learn all that
definitely
for the rest of the other players is helpful to the viewers who did not watch it.
Yeah. So coming out of that solo session, Jethro obviously comes out and lore dumps to the rest of the party that were here. Because you guys were here for that follow-on episode.
Yes. Yep. Everyone was here for the following episode, and then we had. Okay. So lore dumps the following episode, and then you get basically like 4 different objectives out of that episode, right? Close the rifts, find a dragon, a bunch of other stuff. Kill more pillars, work your way up. Yeah. Like, that's a lot of stuff. Like, at that time, that's at least 4 hooks, right? Or 3 or 4 hooks, which are very compelling as characters. How did you guys, and you did it on camera, but I'm curious about above table, how did you guys go about figuring out which one you wanted to actually go after? Because I remember a lot of conversation about, oh, well, we can go here and there's like a dragon on the way, maybe, but like maybe not. And
I remember, we were like, initially we're like, let's follow the leads we can, but no matter what, on the way to whatever our lead is, we'll close rifts.
All right. So after that, you guys ended up trying to close some rifts. And find out that particular goal of the 3 or 4 that you had is not necessarily as easy as just, we're in passing.
Yeah, no
boom,
shit.
that's done. Boom, that's done. Right?
Yep. That was not a good day for Farah. Like, at all.
That was one of the days I was playing Mr. Ballroom and running around
that was such a sweet moment.
Underneath rifts, just like, I'll catch you when you fall.
That was really cool.
And then they never came out.
Yeah.
Way cooler when you play Ballroom.
It was.
It didn't even die.
But I think it might have been a little bit of a worse day for Dominic's character.
Yeah.
I mean, Dominic was fine. Dominic had no problems with it. He had no memory. But
when you
it's annoying.
But when you first had memory,
I was just confused.
Well, you came out and you hugged Jethro.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, that was weird.
Oh, it totally happened.
That was weird.
I also blocked it out.
Check the tape. I don't remember it.
Jethro couldn't have been good or like helpful.
So that was weird for all of us because we're like, first of all, you're older. Second of all, you're hugging Jethro.
He helped.
It was
Third of all-
funny because I was seeding a thing that was going to come up later once I checked on things, but it's like, didn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No one will ever know. Well,
we'll know.
someone might know.
Someone
Well,
might
Farrah
know.
definitely knows stuff.
And no one has asked about it. Yeah.
To be fair, there was a
It's
lot
so
more pressing
busy,
matters at the time.
You've been busy, and you took that whole sojourn to Mount Celestia and all that stuff. So like after that, did you guys? Now, do you have any thoughts of like, okay, like maybe let's like try and look through this rift to see what's on the other side to be sure I'm not gonna
The
fucking
problem
drown?
Is, the problem is that they suck you in.
Yeah.
If you get you can't get within 120 feet of them without it starting to pull you in, and the bigger it is, the harder it pulls. And don't you dare f up trying to close it
I mean,
even once. If you don't get it on the first shot, you're pretty
It's
much
very,
screwed.
Very high stakes. I am personally so nettled that it was just dispel magic this whole
I
time.
know, right?
Yeah, literally just dispel magic.
Which is only like a
third level.
So the issue is
Spell didn't have to roll hot. In it.
the issue here, and I've talked of this not on camera, but these portals have been such a pressing issue since day one. Literally, session one, it was like, oh, there's a portal and there's these shadowy guys. And we've been just constantly trying things. And the first, 2 months of the game, we found we don't have anything to deal with this. So I think, at least me personally, I can't speak to the other dispellers, but it just kind of became like a subconscious thing that we just can't deal with the portals. We need to find someone that can deal with the portals. So it's like, maybe Desiree can deal with the portals. Maybe.
Right. So like meta though, like you and Neil and Snoke and several others here are pretty experienced D&D players, like above table. When did you get dispel?
Level
It's
5?
a third
It's a
level
level
spell.
spell. It's a third level spell. So
We got a level 5.
You're on level
so we've
6,
had it
right?
for a while.
Levels.
Like at the beginning of 54, you guys
We're
were level
8.
Oh.
6.
We went level 7 at the start of season 2.
Okay, level 7. So you've had it for a couple levels.
At least 2 levels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You could have tried it for a couple levels.
Yeah.
for sure.
But it's like,
For sure.
we were so deep into solving, everything seemed so big and macro. So it's like,
We also didn't have Magic Pony Horse at that
and
point.
the pillars
Yeah,
weren't
well,
a
the
big,
pillars were in the sky.
they weren't a big threat at that point.
yeah, it was just like, we're trying to solve what's in front of us because every time we look back, it gets bad.
Some of the pillars are just like centaurs coming down from the Feywild. Like it's not.
Hey, you're pretty chill. Like,
Yeah.
I think we saw it as an in-game issue and then found out
If this
it's such a
campaign,
minor thing.
this, you found out this is a regular issue, and then the end game issues are a whole nother thing.
I'm 100% sure, confident. If we started this campaign at level 5, then we would have figured that out instantly. But it just slowly became something that's not our problem anymore. So that's an oversight on us. Our characters
a
and
pretty big one. A pretty big one. But also, if we had started closing them at level 5, and
We also
and
didn't
and what's her butt
Right.
had
you
come
couldn't get
in
out of it.
What's her butt?
and what's her butt had come and gave
Her
us
butt.
a little talking to, someone would have probably died
Yeah.
then.
Well, and that's one thing I don't understand is why she doesn't just kill us.
Yeah, we talked about I see it.
We haven't gotten there
Oh,
quite
sorry.
yet.
Jumping
No,
We'll get
no,
there.
you're good. You're good.
We haven't gotten a
The
good
one thing I want to
one.
do before I get to Isa is I want to talk a little bit about the use of the ethereal plane.
I'm doing it the whole time.
All right, so all of that to lead into Jethro. I know I wasn't going to call on you. I said I wasn't in the beginning, but the use of the ethereal plane in this campaign, especially the last, 6 episodes with the horse, has been, I don't want to say extraordinary, but it's
Broken?
been different.
Yes, it is.
First option.
It's been literally option number 1. Okay, I'm in a bad spot. I'm going to go ethereal.
Yeah, it's just smart.
It's smart, but are you worried that you're too reliant on it and it's something that could be taken away?
First of all, I'll do. Second of all, so when we crafted, because obviously it's a fully homebrew subclass, the nightmare was an afterthought, and it was it's a cool demon horse that's flavored well. The ethereal stride was not even a factor. It was we can flavor to something else if we want, but who cares? We're never going to use it. And then I don't even remember when the first time I did it was, but it was we didn't have another option. I was this is literally a last ditch, and it worked. And I was this might be more useful. And then I did a little more research and looked at how the ethereal plane works, and I was this actually is very useful. So I think it goes into Jethro is slowly morphing into more of a support character.
What level is the spell etherealness?
It's like level 7.
Yeah, it's like a pretty high level spell, like that you only get if
And you
you've
just
been
can
doing
do
this
it
for a
beautiful.
long time.
It takes your 7th level spell that you
But-
have one of.
Nightmares are only
And you're stuck
CR. Where's the CR on this thing? Is there no CR? Wow, that's CR3. So like they can be summoned as part of like lower level spells. So it's kind of like a workaround. But it with Jethro become like more support, it kind of works. Like we saw in the fight with the third pillar, and then also like the dragon fight. Is like he wasn't doing a lot of damage. He was kind of just like kiting the dragon the whole time, like drawing its attention, staying just out of range. Occasionally, he can grab an ally who's down, pull them ethereal, give him some quick medical assistance, and then send him back out there. So like he never has to wait into combat if he doesn't want to, and he can kind of like in and out run, like do quick runs, like move people. We saw it a lot in the third pillar fight where we were moving people like all over the battlefield. Like we were like dropping Rindil like on the actual enemy. We were like taking, I think somebody went down and like I took them with Dominic away. Dominic hit him with a healing word and then we just dropped him right back in combat. So like it puts like a whole nother level to fighting where it's no longer like, can I get in range? Can I move into cover so I can heal? It's like,
Reach us.
yeah, we're playing, and then it was really cool. Again, kind of spoilery, but jumping to the third pillar fight, like to see the whole fight take place, come to what we thought was like an end, and then a whole nother level opened up when the enemy went ethereal, and I was like, guess we're taking
Yeah,
this
we
to
went
the
Final
adult
Fantasy.
play. Yeah. It was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty.
It wasn't even his final form.
So has there been any thought, like from a character perspective, like a great DM will work with that, right? And say, okay, well, this is a really cool thing that you determine your character can do, but if we were to lose it, especially with, say, Aparitia being imprisoned,
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Or your powers
You know.
being just taken away from you.
right? As a character, have you given any thought to that? It's like
Not-
basically like what happens if like because like that's like one of your primary goals. So you just said it in combat right now
I mean,
is a support with the horse.
so the horse is only one of 3 summons I have.
Okay.
And I've kind of been leaning on it because A, it's dope. B, like the ethereal stride is like bread and butter. So without that, like I can summon a Spine Devil, which I haven't done yet. Summon imps. We saw that for a little bit. Haven't summoned Spine Devil yet.
Those imps had
Was it
attitude.
not Bartholomew?
And also Jethro, I think.
Yeah.
I miss not Bartholomew.
So like I can summon a Spine Devil and like for combat, much more. Like a Spine Devil would be a good ally to have in fight, but like it's not as cool as flying around. And then now we're gonna talk about this.
Mhm.
Just as Jethro loses his ability to summon his flying horse, Dominic can now summon a flying horse. So like I feel like the constant one-upping, like Jethro is never going to not summon the nightmare.
Can I say something that Dominic has not pointed out in game? I could do that. I could have summoned that horse since you got your nightmare thing.
Sure.
I didn't get that recently, but I was like, oh, this is a box we have checked off. There's so many boxes that aren't checked off. This is something I don't have to bother with. It wasn't until Jethro lost, our very cool mobility thing. That Dominic was like, okay, maybe this will make him feel better.
You're saying it's like a help situation, and all it does is make it worse.
Well, and then Farah was like, "Oh,
I can just fly.
Dominic, this is your steed,
oh yeah,
And I was like, what are you talking about? I have no reason
right?
to do
What
this.
was it Apollo?
Apollo.
Yeah.
Apollo.
And Dominic's like, "This is the first time I've done this,"
Yep. Yep.
and she's like,
No,
"This
it's
has
not.
been your
No,
loyal
it's not,
steed
dude.
for years." You know.
It is not the first time you've done this.
Now I'm curious
It
as to
is
whether
steed.
the creature knows Dominic at all.
Pegasi are fairly intelligent.
Very intelligent.
It's-
No, but I'm saying like even
yeah,
with
it's
the time
weird.
dilation thing.
Because like I went there and I had something in my pocket, and then like it erased all that. So everything I gained, like even physical stuff, not just memories, just didn't exist anymore. So does the horse
Well, I
have the
would
memories of
assume-
me, or does the horse have her memories?
From my logic, the Pegasus is a independent creature, not affected.
Yeah,
by
but we
your-
didn't see if the horse rolled to save. I lost the memories because I failed to save. So it's
Right,
like,
but if you also go to Mount Celestia as they do in the later episodes and do the unaging thing and all that stuff, like the Pegasus is probably so to know you because
I'm
timey-wimey
still waiting for the
celestial
nightmare
stuff.
Pegasus.
Right. I think
Wibbly wobbly.
Yeah,
I think
same
in
time.
theory the Pegasus still knows who you are.
absolutely. Yeah, I think so. Like,
Which for the viewers, if you want some very interesting lore, go look up what a nightmare is and like just read their lore. It's good stuff. It could provide some interesting discussion later on.
Because
it definitely will.
Can we even like talk about the fact that as a game we've introduced time travel into a Dungeons and Dragons game?
No,
You're
into timey-wimey bullshit.
It's a time realm.
Now at any point, because at any point we could have people from the realms like roll up on us, and it's fun. Like that's actually kind of fun to see. Like, okay, oh man, someone from the Feywild, or like whatever, like different planes of existence, which is a fun thing to do in D&D. Now all of a sudden, future versions of ourselves, past versions of ourselves, like just the time dilation within the rifts means that like just anything is possible.
I mean, you've got planes, you've got rifts, and now you have time dilation, and so now you have a multiverse situation.
Now we can, potentially find a rift that is connected somehow to maybe the first one when Isa was still planning all this shit.
Or what if you find a rift that's like, oh, this is a rift to the Nine Hells.
We've been there.
Why is some dude that looks like me there?
Yeah,
I'm saying it just completely opens the floodgates for the DM to do whatever he wants. Whatever.
So what would have happened if in the minute or so that I was gone, you would have sending to me, would I have gotten it? And when would I have gotten it? Who even knows?
Right.
There's so many
Does
questions.
Say, which plane
well, there's a 5% chance of failure.
Well, let's say you succeed.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, when do I get that message in the 6 years if I get it at all?
Right.
Immediately or at the end?
Once you return,
what if one of the pillars is like one of us? Right?
What if we're all the pillars?
I could definitely see Jethro in the future being one of the pillars.
But being gullible enough to be like, yeah, sure, I'll just.
But like it's a future us, right? Yeah. Like they fucking figured it out.
No, it would be a past us if one of us is the pillars.
No, future us.
No.
This is a point.
Future you in the past, and then that past you was put forward.
Have you ever played Kingdom Hearts?
In the past is still
Because if you follow that.
Sure.
That's how it works.
So
it's so complicated adding time to this.
I don't envy our DM for doing that. I don't know if it was a convenience thing because we had players who like above table had to leave and he just thought that would be easier. Or, but to put that in there means that he's going to have to tie up all these loose ends.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he's also going to have to answer a lot of our dumb questions.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how's this work?
But we're all like somewhat like sci-fi nerds or like fantasy nerds. So like,
right.
We all have different ideas of like how time, depending on your chosen form of media, time travel works differently. Sure. Like depending on what you're watching.
Time Turner Harry Potter versus Doctor Who.
Yeah, exactly. I prescribe to whatever movie I'm watching. I'll just believe them for a time.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Because you have like the butterfly effect. Do things in the past affect the future. Like you have the multiverse where like whatever you do in this just creates like a multiverse timeline. So like there's a bunch of
we've gone with this because I feel like there was an alternate timeline where Dominic and Irina just go off and like Farah. Dominic and Farah, I still call you Irina, I don't know why. Dominic and Farah go off and like just slay the
because you're a bad player.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Close 30 portals by yourself.
They close portals, they slay the pillars. They like there's a version of this where it all works out.
Honestly, Bard, Cleric, Pony. What else you need?
That's all you need.
So, closing the rifts, it turns out that should be one of your main goals. It's not really as simple as it's brought out to be,
difficult.
right?
Even if we could.
There were other objectives that were brought up earlier. Other objectives that were given to you by Borum, the Dragon Rider, to, hey, okay, you have 21 days to do this, and then...
Not anymore, but yes.
I'm going to fake kill someone, and then if you can't bring him back, just let me know. I might have a diamond for you.
Yeah.
That
wasn't super revealed to the party yet, but yeah.
No.
So I've never heard of that.
It's all right.
It was coming.
This is the above
this
table.
is the first that I'm hearing of this.
So that was something that was very mildly hinted at because Jethro didn't want to mention it. Because Jethro brought all this good information, and then everyone was like, "Thanks, Jethro."
So but it's hard for me because it's like
we liked you.
You also glossed over the whole introduction of the lore. Yeah. It's like, hey, Jethro tells them all this shit. Well, how much do you actually tell them?
So
it's on you.
How much? There was a time clock of 21 days, or else Baram would kill one of us, with the knowledge he would not kill Dominic, so that Dominic could bring that person back.
Oh, thanks.
And it was purely for appearance,
nice.
so that way.
Did you volunteer me?
No.
Who did you volunteer?
I didn't volunteer anybody. I said he could pick. He just can't kill Dominic because he's the one that has to revive us.
I do trust everyone here to be above table with that. So
I
separate
Which it's invalid now. It's
exactly.
no point now.
Yeah, I mean, you found him like 3 episodes later. And
It was kind of like I wasn't really gonna bring it up until it was like day 20, and I would have been like, by the way,
Day 20?
What an
Not even like
asshole.
day 15?
Why burden us with that guilt and that pressure?
So the whole thing was to keep up appearances. If we didn't succeed within 21 days, in order to keep appearances with the pillars, he would kill one of us, and then on the low, bring us back. So that way he can go back to Isa and say, there's a new second pillar that I commissioned, Jethro, failed his mission, and I killed one of his friends. Just send a message.
Well, I said it.
Low key, he would have revived us, and everything's PG key. But I didn't think that was important because it's like, we're going to do the mission anyway. Why have that unnecessary?
Yeah. Things change.
And
so fast.
now she has ripped him and me limb from limb. So,
So why isn't she ripping us limb? Is my thing.
I think she was
That's
just
something that we don't
sending
know
a
yet.
message.
Yeah, I think she was sending a message to her 11th pillar and her second pillar.
Right. Okay. Can you remind me? Is 11th pillar super high or super low?
Super high.
Super high. Okay.
One is
Like,
lowest, 12 is highest.
But she's
Him-
not sending a message to you because she took away your power.
I don't think it was sending a message to me. It was sending a message to Baram like, hey, I trusted you. He's the 11th
So
pillar.
did he get his shit taken out?
No.
No.
Well,
And us as a group, because she specifically said, stop closing rifts.
Yeah.
Like,
She attacked us. Part of attacking us was turning Bulgrim to stone, taking away my power, and bringing Baram to like the point of death. The only reason he's still alive is because we locked him in the city.
Well,
Okay,
he
so
sacrificed
you know
the entire
the best
dragon.
way to stop us from closing rifts.
Kill us all.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, like,
We don't have a very fun campaign if we're all dead.
Well, I understand, but there's got to be something
bigger reason.
logical.
I also think though
Sure.
that one of the things she talked about in that encounter, since we're on the Isa encounter at this point, one of the things she mentioned before we even brought it up, she was like, "Why did you kill Kapoor?" She was like specifically brought up
because she
Kapoor.
sucked.
She was the
Have you fucking met
But
her?
Kapoor is the only one we found so far that has the blood of Mentis on her. Like, she's the only one. I get the sense that she may have been like a disciple and a close kind of disciple, I guess, of Isa and all that. And so when we killed Kapoor, which happened right before season 2 started, that was a signal that like, oh, someone's trying to mess up our plans. Like, let's go figure out who they are.
Not
Let's see
even-
what's going on.
I mean,
Well,
it wasn't even really. That's not even really the reason that we killed Kapoor. We killed Kapoor because we fucking hated Kapoor.
No, yeah, she was
And that
the
bitch
worst.
deserved to die.
Kapoor sucked.
She was
Kapoor
the worst.
sucked.
I'm saying from Isa's point of view, she's like, oh,
Right.
this was one of my followers. She wasn't even an entitled hidden pillar. She was actually just like I don't know what she was called, but she was a disciple.
Well,
It was definitely a
Kapoor-
two
Kapoor
birds,
was
one stone
two.
thing.
Yeah, Kapoor was the second pillar.
Oh, she wasn't.
Because that's how we got the second pillar.
Oh, fair.
Which we
fair,
traded to
fair,
Gillum, which then made his first pillar. Whole thing.
Cool.
I think it was definitely a two birds, one stone thing. It was just very coincidental that, she was also a pillar. And
Yeah.
I
had no idea. We're just like,
the way I
It's
imagine
just
the
like we
conversation
hate her.
going in Isa's throne room, whatever, is Minion A comes up and goes, we can't get in contact with Kapoor, and Isa goes, oh, somebody killed her. Find out who killed her. Bring them to me. Minion B comes up and goes, hey, someone's closing rifts over near Philothus, and also scared away the Enchantress. The Enchantress is coming to meet you now. The Enchantress shows up, says, hey, this crew just rolled into my city and is starting to close pillars and like really causing problems for us. And Kapoor,
we hadn't even done that
and
at
then-
that point, though.
when she showed up to rip our throats out? Absolutely.
When the Enchantress bounced.
No, I'm talking about
Well,
when
the
I
Enchantress
said
is
that.
bound to go.
And so then I imagine Isa says, all right, we'll find that group and bring them to me. And then she appears and goes, in her mind, she's like, I need to find the people who killed Kapoor and the people closing pillars. Shows up,
Closing pillars and closing rifts.
It's both.
closing rifts and killed Kapoor. And then she goes, you're the ones closing my rifts. And then finds out, and you also killed Kapoor?
And you're teaming up with the 11th pillar?
There's all these little problems she had. Turns out they were all the responsibility of one party.
Which brings me back to the
Right,
question.
she would have just wiped us off the face of the earth.
Fucking wipe us out.
I super agree with Justin here, and I think it might be like this, like clearly she's like the worst person here, right? But don't forget, there's still Mintus stuff going on in the background.
She could be just.
Maybe she's not like the biggest worst. Maybe she's like a weapon herself.
I still, and this is the theory that I
But
put
she has a reason for
a
getting us
while
alive.
ago, is in the perspective of things, she is a giant and we are ants.
Yeah.
Like she is so far above us. Like if I was outside eating a sandwich and I saw like ants coming over and like eating my crumbs, I'm not going to go out of my way to kill them all.
Yeah, but
I'm going to be like, this is annoying. Let me just brush them away.
I agree with you for a long time, but the problem is she had us all right there.
Right.
Oh.
She could have been like,
I agree with that, but I had a conversation with Joey about it. And that actually gets to my my ultimate question for this group is, look, you are up against right now a force that you can do nothing against, right? As a D&D group.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I talked with Joey a little bit about it, and I'm like, man, like he made a comment like, hey, this is a little bit like Empire Strikes Back. Like, what the fuck is Han Solo supposed to go against Darth Vader? Like, and why did Darth Vader leave them alive? Right? There's a goal there somewhere. You don't understand it right now, at least in this season, but you have to believe there is a goal, or else you wouldn't be alive.
you just stop fighting.
You know, so like as a D&D group, having said that, as a D&D group against the possible odds that are much more powerful than you and are tracking your every move, what do?
You be smarter.
I would say that they are not impossible odds. They're just improbable odds.
Sure.
And I would also say, not to like shoot down your question, but I think the viewers should watch the next episode to find out what our plan is.
Yeah, we've been thinking.
Because we've got a big one.
We have a solid.
I
think it's a solid.
Let me
It's a
say
really
this.
great plan.
Yeah.
For a very, very long time, and I think Dominic has said it in game, since like the first time Mintus popped up, or like manifested, I'd say. Dominic's like, yo, we can't really do anything about this, but the problem is we never had time to sit down and plan because we were always on the back foot. But now, for the first time, and far be it for me to compliment Neil or Jethro, but
Either one.
Neil.
You know,
all of Jethro's powers, all of Jethro's charisma, all his ideas,
You hugged him.
the best thing he's ever done as his party was getting the 11th pillar, Baram. That's someone with influence. That's someone who can move things, and he's a little beaten up right now, but he can put things in motion. So he can teleport us around and put us in tactical positions where we can make decisions that matter, because we have not had any influence this whole time. You see how big that map is? The map is huge.
well, and that
And
last
there's portals
episode
everywhere.
definitely showcased how quickly he can move you guys around.
Yeah, and
He goes and grabs you, Edmund, young Edmund now, and Farrah from
Excited for young Edmund.
the
You mean
celestial
hot
plane.
Edmund?
But also, I would like to
You know?
point out, Baram seems to know more than he lets on, because we spent how long of a season trying to find Razim? Kapoor spent how long trying to find Razim? Right,
Yeah.
trying to find Razim?
Baram was like-
And Baram was like,
oh yeah,
"Yo,
this
let me
guy's
take
over
you
here.
to his like secret base that is heavily warded."
Baram
Just
is
walk you in the front
huge.
door.
Having Baram is
So how long has he known and
Does
like
Isa
been
know?
watching Isa like the whole time? Like,
So I guess my
Trying to
following
find-
question there is do you think Isa's watching Brom?
doesn't
I mean,
matter.
now.
she
I
is
think
now.
she's now.
If she's watching them, because like she's been
He
following
went
you
toe-to-toe with
guys,
her.
right?
Well-
Well, I was going to say, if he's of not equal power, but of power,
He can
I'm
enough
not
stay.
saying
to do these
magnitude.
things, like
He can stave
he's
her
at a
off.
higher magnitude to where not only can he save her off, maybe not in physical combat, but he can save her off by practicing magic quietly, basically. You know what I mean? Like helping us from the shadows, I think is something he's very capable of doing.
He also knows where to hide.
Mhm.
Like
been doing it.
he's
I'm sure for
he's
thousands of years.
He's
I
known.
never play magic user, so I'm sure there's something up there to block like divinations and other.
Right.
Which
like,
Well,
now,
he
actually,
also just knows don't go where the eyes can see you,
Yeah.
where the openings in the sky
Which-
can see you.
this
Super good information.
This
to
I
have.
think might actually answer the question of why didn't Kippur or Isa kill us? She may have been about to, but I think we're forgetting Baram
Oh, yeah.
rolled in on an ancient black dragon while she had us at gunpoint.
That's true.
Like who's to say
he
she
ran
wa-
off? Yeah.
who's to say she wasn't
may have.
10 seconds away from
She was
pulling
toying with us, and then
trigger?
she probably
I
was
just
planning on
just now thought of that when you mentioned that, but we're all sitting here going, why didn't Desiree or Isa
Or
kill
Isa,
us?
Whatever.
That's
Why
a
didn't Isa
lot
kill
of
us?
faith that Baram is showing you guys to give
That's what I'm saying.
the
Like,
ancient
once-
black dragon.
But I mean,
he
that's
sacrificed
an
an
actual
ancient
threat
black
for
dragon.
her, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Ancient black dragons are strong.
Right, but he only
And
gets to
she
play that
smote
once.
The black dragon.
Yeah.
He barely
Right, that card is
squeaked
burned.
away.
He doesn't get to play another ancient
Well,
black dragon.
so I think he gains our trust from that.
Yeah.
Sure.
If we didn't trust him before, we absolutely do now. And
I
I,
mean,
I think
Above table, do you think your trust is worth an ancient black dragon?
Yeah. Because we're the only ones with magic around town.
I'm just asking the question.
Like, here's the thing: we are out of
Maybe
options.
you guys
and also
debate,
he
but,
is
right?
he
Like
is
a
out of
baby
options.
dragon?
Well, when you fucking go all in, like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to trust us, and
Yeah.
we have to trust you.
I think he knew he was going to go toe to toe with her eventually because he was actively defying her demands and like working against her. So I think he kind of had that ace in the hole. And like I said, she may have been about to kill us, but the ancient black dragon swooping in and him yelling "run" was like that's the 6 seconds we needed to get out.
So
Well,
I think
and
that
I
was the
don't care
same
if
thing
you're
that
a
broke
level-
your stone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because I was petrified, fully petrified, and I was, Bulgrim was just like, all right, well, if she wants us to prove ourselves, like maybe there's a
Let's
way
take this
we
test.
can let's see if I can roll high and pass this test basically, and then prove, maybe we can just
I don't think. Yeah.
slide under the radar a little bit. Maybe she'll think we're just one of the pillars now. We're devout whatevers. A 19 didn't help.
Yeah.
So
Well, the other thing is too is like even if she's a level 20 wizard or magic user, whatever, an ancient black dragon ain't nothing to fuck with.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like by yourself.
Not in one-on-one.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well-
as we're running away, we just hear the clash of the titans behind
Yep.
us.
Yeah, to get back to the question, I think ultimately it does. I think Braum came to the same conclusion that we came to a while ago, which is it doesn't matter how strong you are, how many d6 of what is it, acid or poison your dragon can do. It's not you're not going to kill her with power. You need people, you need resources, and we were the only 6 people willing to do anything about it. So
Well, and like
we're not worth it, but we're the only potential.
And I was,
Yes.
speaking of power, like her first move, if you watch the miniseries and the prequels, her first move is to become the only magic user out there.
We should be.
So she's the de facto most powerful person. Then she's like, oh man, we can pull more power from these pillars. And then she's like, oh, then we can pull more power from these rifts. And like she's just amassing. Her whole plan is to basically become a god, essentially, and like pull all the power from everywhere.
And I think if you think of her like a giant redwood, like you don't just cut through the fucking bottom of it, like you trim the branches, you cut off the range.
Well, it's one of those where you don't think that she's had enough opposition in the last
1,000 years.
millennia.
And that's
So she doesn't understand what she's dealing with necessarily.
But
She's got to
cocky.
get to a certain
She's
level.
like
It's
a-
been 1,000
she's
years since she
overconfident.
fought
She's
another
like a
magic
lobster. She can't die naturally. Just eventually, she can't outgrow the shell.
yeah.
Oh,
As impossible as it seems, like, we just have to outthink her one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
We just can't attack her to death.
Yeah.
It's just not
just
feasible.
D&D players were very excited. We're like, oh, we're gonna get new powers and features, and we're
Could
gonna
attack
level
her
up,
to
and we're
death,
gonna
we
go like,
could.
Well, it's
If we leveled up to level 20 right now, I'm not 100% certain that changes anything.
I don't- yeah,
Because
I
she's
don't-
still, her numbers are
I
still,
think it absolutely does.
I don't know.
I
if
think
it
if
does.
we were
Pretty sure
all
I think
level
it's
20,
level 20. So like,
but I'm saying like I kind of agree with the fact that like clearly she's drawing her power from 10 different facets or whatever, and if you cut off all her fonts of magic,
Yep.
then she turns
The
into
level
a
20
level 20 wizard.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Right
That's
now she's above level 20, right? Like
she does not have a stat block.
she is clearly.
Well, I mean, she single-handedly took on an ancient dragon without too much issue.
She has
Right.
like all the magic of all these dimensions. And that's what I'm saying. Like, even
Right.
if we're level 20, sure, we have all the magic of a level 20 character. We don't have, she has everything in this whole plane and everything in that whole plane. Or at least she could. We have no
Right.
idea of the range.
I mean, at this point, she's a CR 40 or something, right? But if we
Yeah.
cut off
It is
limbs,
pointless to try to put a number on it until we can figure out a plan to start siphoning away from her consistently,
She has like 20 levels in every class.
right?
which we have.
There's a plan.
And
There's
y'all
a
will
plan.
find out in the
There
next
is a plan.
episode.
See you guys in the next
Plan of
episode.
foot.
Thanks so much for joining us.
He's like,
You guys can't outro me. I'm only
He's
on
like,
like once every 10
to be
episodes.
fair, he took over Bulgur. You can take us
Killing
down.
me.
That's right. That's right.
It's only fair.
We took Bulgrims.
No, I don't have much else for you guys other than like, hey, it's super weird to have a cleric with zombies, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am amazed.
They're gone now, but they were
They're
there.
gone now.
Neutrality.
I don't know what Farah or Hannah expected when I like stayed back in that room with you, but it was not zombies.
And like the only reason, not to take too much time, but yeah, the only reason I made sure everyone was gone, I just didn't want people to be loud. I was like, Fair is pretty quiet. That's fine. I can concentrate here. I don't care if anyone knows. It's just this is what it is. Neutral, man. I'm not
And
a
to
good
keep
player.
the fans on point, obviously nothing has happened on the Avaricia front. This
So
time.
so that's actually something I wanted to ask Snook about. Has the Remdal thing negatively affected Remdal at all?
I
Not
don't
yet.
think so.
He's fine.
Not yet. If anything, the sword has upgraded to its first level. So I have collected 5 souls, which makes I get an additional +1/+1.
Nice.
And then outside of getting out of Kapoor's realm or out of the Hells, and yeah, we've reached out a couple times. I recently just ended a solo, but can't really go into the details of that just yet.
I haven't even seen it.
For even that.
Too soon, bro.
But it's not something you don't continually draw on power from her realm. It's she gave you an artifact, and
Pretty much, yeah. Like Rimdal's not one to be a talker. Clearly, if you've watched the episodes, I don't think I talked for the first 3 of season 2.
Yeah.
But it's Rimdal is just using the sword, kind of seeing what it does. Occasionally, he catches glimpses of his late mother or hears the voice, and like things like that, which keeps him kind of. It's that carrot in front of Rimdal. She just keep going for it. But
so are you on board with the plan to have the rabbit farm?
just keep cutting people.
Just
down.
keep cutting rabbits down and.
Get the souls.
Right now.
That's a great idea.
Right now,
Think
no
about
one's
making bets for me.
no one's really spoke out against it. I did describe how the sword upgraded. There's more ridges on the back, like salt teeth on the back of the sword. So, I mean, no one's really opposed it. So he's gonna keep cutting those who oppose his group down.
I mean, in medieval settings, like people getting killed by us is not really a moral quandary. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
not really.
The cleric is
People
usually-
die.
the
Right,
cleric
you're
is
like,
usually
yeah,
the
like,
moral
okay,
compass.
I'm gonna kill this child to get its soul, and we'd be like, whoa.
Wait a minute.
You know?
Wait a minute.
You're like, I'm gonna kill
For
this
the
enemy
soul?
who is trying to kill us.
Or I'm
Yes.
gonna kill this rabbit for dinner, and I just happen to get a soul.
Right.
Yeah,
Did
fair.
we decide whether
Negotiations.
animals have souls?
They do.
They do. We did.
They do.
You guys
Or
did.
because wolves. have
Wolves
souls.
do.
Yeah.
So do Displacer Beast. Displacer Beast also has souls.
All right.
I'm not
I
gonna stop
hope you
you.
heard all that.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
rabbits for
point number
souls.
1 for next episode is to create a rabbit farm.
Yep.
Yep.
And then you
Which is
create
great.
the zombies off of the rabbit farm and just kind of
Zombie.
like zombie rabbits.
Zombies?
Zombie rabbit.
Zombie.
Well,
You know.
zombies decidedly do not have souls, right?
Decidedly do not.
Just literally everything but a soul.
Right.
Like an amalgamation of rabbits
They're,
for one zombie.
they're missing a little bit of flesh and a lot of soul.
It's fine. Yeah, no worries. But honestly,
That's what rabbits do. They go.
So
overall, I have enjoyed season 2 as watching. I think you guys have enjoyed it as well. Big props to our DM and our editor. He's done a wonderful job. And honestly, I can't wait to hopefully do this with you guys again in another 10 episodes.
And another
That's
10
right.
10
episodes.
episodes, because awesome job, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Again, subscribe to our YouTube, Fate Awakens, and thanks for watching, honestly. Bye.
Bye.